All right, we have two last elements of context to look at. So the first one we'll look at is where. So where was the research done and where did the participants come from? So maybe there's some geographical issues there that could be at play. So I have some demographic information for you. So suppose the county's population is 45% white, 5% Black or African American, 34% Asian, 8% other, about zero point 0.3 Native American Alaskan Native, zero point 0.2 Pacific Islander, and 6.5% from two or more races. So if I told you that this was Gunnison County, does that sound about right? I'm gonna guess probably not. Okay, so this, if I told you that the population we were working with was comprised like this doesn't sound like we're talking about research in Gunnison. And in fact, this is demographics from out of the San Francisco area in California. Okay, let me give you another example. In 2017, approximately 5 people out of every 100 civilians had a firearm. All right, so I know that's a dicey topic, and I don't want to get into the pros and cons of firearms in this class, but does that seem, based on what you know, like that's a statistic that's coming out of the US? Probably not. And in fact, this is actually a statistic from Britain. So different places, different numbers. And so asking where we got these people from, where the research itself was done is an important question because that does give you some insight into whether this is going to apply to a group you're interested in or not. Okay. And then the last one is how. So was this research an experiment? Was it a study? Was it a survey? Was it an interview? How did they get this data? So this is a pretty fun example from Colorado. People worry, especially about high voltage power lines, probably because they're carried by very large, highly visible structures that somehow look vaguely threatening. So this actually started with a 1979 study, so a little over 40 years ago. These two people reported a correlation, which means there's a relationship between high voltage power lines and childhood leukemia in the area around Denver, Colorado. So in other words, they're trying to suggest that maybe the power lines are causing childhood leukemia. Now there's a problem with this, and that's the use of that word correlation. That tells me that they didn't do an experiment, but rather that they just did a study. And so you can't get cause and effect out of that. And in fact, you can show many things are related. I can put together a graph that shows that as ice cream sales increase, the number of shark attacks increase. But that doesn't mean that selling ice cream causes people to get bitten by a shark. Okay, and that's the same thing here. So you want to look at how that was done and whether they can really get cause and effect out of that, or maybe there's something else going on that's causing these issues. Okay, so that would be the how of providing context to our data and really being able to talk about how we can apply those results and what they do and don't mean.